Your neighbor Jim figured out that with Metro PCS, he gets unlimited data, talk, and text for $30, period.
Babe, that color looks awesome.
Just like he figured out that shopping with his wife will buy him a night with his buddies. That's Guys Night Out, figured out. You too figure it out. Switch to Metro PCS on the fast 4G LTE T-Mobile network for only $30, period. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Plan includes first 1 gigabyte of data at up to 4G LTE speeds. See store or metropcs.com for details and terms and conditions and data management info.
Blog Talk Radio.
Howdy, race fans. How the hell are you? Steve Billmyer here. I'm going to host this episode of Racing with Big Sweat. I'm sitting down here in Carolina enjoying a thunderstorm that we're famous for. We're as known for our summer thunderstorms as the Midwest is for tornadoes. I mean, it's pretty much a common thing, so you kind of get used to it. Let me introduce you to my producer, the man that makes all this happen, and my friend, Mr. CJ Sports. CJ, how are we tonight?
I'm not doing too bad. Glad to be here tonight. You got three different guests tonight that are all kind of unique in their own ways, with Derek Scott Jr. in the Truck Series races last weekend, and then the action that went down to Bowman Gray. And I'm looking definitely forward to having Kenny Martin on. I've had him on many times on my show, and just his different style of racing and the type of racing he is in is very interesting to me, the endurance racing. So I'm looking forward to hearing from all three of these guests, all just different types of guests and all types of racing. So it's going to be a fun night tonight.
Yeah, definitely. So I went to Kenny's Facebook page, and there was a video posted there, and I watched it, and it looks like this is a different type, but a very interesting type of racing. So I'm looking forward to talking to Kenny. I'm looking forward to talking to Derek Scott Jr. about his debut in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. Great for him, 16-year-old young man living the dream. You know, he's hitting the top tier. So, you know, he's right there, and I wish him all the luck in the world. While we're waiting on him to call in, because he's our first guest.
I believe he's in the studio.
Is he?
I believe.
Well, that's good. Well, let's talk to him then, folks. This is a young man out of Texas, but I believe he's moved to North Carolina. But either way, he's a hell of a driver, I tell you. He gets the job done. So let's talk to him a little bit. Derek Scott Jr., how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
We're finer than frog's hair down here. Did I say that right? Didn't you move from Texas to North Carolina?
No, just my team did. Just where my late models and everything stationed out of.
Cool deal. Let's get to last weekend. Here you are, first time in the garage at a NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, big time, and you're mingling and you're there with all the names of guys that are famous from the trucks. What were your feelings? What were your thoughts? Tell us about that.
Man, it was crazy. You know, always as a little kid, I always dreamed of doing that. And I've always been in the garages in Texas, Texas Motor Speedway where I live at, and it's always just a dream. So this race was a dream come true. You know, I got to live through like all the legends I've looked up to racing, and I always, I used to play with NASCAR games and play as Matt Crafton and Travis Wappel and those guys, and it was just great to see them, talk to them, and just learn from them. It was a great experience.
I bet it was. I bet it was pretty neat to go around and be able to talk to these drivers on their level, because you're right there with them. So that must have been pretty cool. How about when you went out on the track for the first time? Were you nervous, or were you confident that you could run with these guys?
It was a little mixed emotion because I do compete with these guys in super late models, and, I really don't have too much of a problem with it, but of course I was nervous. I've never driven a NASCAR truck before. Actually, I did drive it, and I tested at Caraway, and I kind of had a little incident and wrecked in turn one, so that made me even more, cautious on the racetrack. But I was just nervous. But once I made it around the first couple of turns, it wasn't that big of a deal. It's a lot different than supers. It just took a while for me to adjust to it.
Yeah, I understand that. And I watched the truck race, and I noticed when they'd show you on TV, and regardless and talking about you, that you did drive a cautious race, and you brought it home in one piece. So, that's a victory right there. I can't remember, but where did you qualify and where did you finish?
I qualified, I guess, 25th. The truck was real loose, I wasn't ready for it either because in practice we were real tight. But I wasn't really happy with the qualifying run because we were top 15, top 20 in practice. And in the race, I don't know where I finished in the race, 20-something. Somewhere around, I qualified, I guess, somewhere around there. I don't really remember that. So
you were there about the same speed the whole time. Was your truck loose during the race?
No, actually, it's because I told them it was loose in qualifying because it was real bad in qualifying. And they tightened it up too much, and I wasn't able to get any drive off the corner. I was just plowing the front end off the corner. And, the truck did get good there to the end, but we just didn't have enough laps towards the end. They didn't want to make real big adjustments for me because they didn't want me to go out there and feel something I never felt before and wreck their truck. So, of course, the setup wasn't, I'd say the best setup, but it was a cautious setup for the team, So me and my inexperience in driving the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series wouldn't wreck it,
Yeah, I understand that. Have you got any plans or is anything firm for you to run that truck again?
Oh, not really a done deal yet, but of course, we're just looking for sponsors and, people to support us. But for sure, we're looking to run a couple more races. I just got accepted to run New Hampshire and a few more races, I guess, Brett Bodine talked to my dad about. So that's good. I'm really excited, and hopefully we'll be able to get to do it again.
Brett Bodine's a good person to talk. Matter of fact, I worked with him when he first came down at Hendrick Motorsports. I got to talk to Brett pretty good, and I'm sure he's a good source of information now. Let's talk about your late model season. How's that going? Tell us what your season's been so far.
Well, season started out just as a learning experience because I never drove supers before. We just got it put in the car, and we've been just learning. But the past 5 races, we've struggled. We've been pretty much dead last pulling off the track in the race because it's just wrecking loose. But we do think we found a problem in the rear end, which is causing it. But we just didn't want to make sure it was my experience. That's why we've been doing so bad. So we really think it's the rear end and the locker, something to do there. But, we really haven't had the best of luck either. We've been put in the worst situations or, went out to qualify in the sun and everyone else went at the night and the track cooled off and gripped up. We're coming along. We're coming.
There you go. Good attitude. You said the car was way loose. It reminded me of Tim Richmond. Tim had 3 words for loose on the radio. It was either loose, way loose, or I'm fixing to wreck this sumbitch. And Tim, and through that, Harry Hyde would figure out what adjustments to make and everything. But radio conversation was good. So you're getting the grip now on the car and everything. How much difference is the super late model from the other late models you've driven?
So many people are like, oh, my gosh, it's such a huge difference. You're just not going to do well to start with. But to be honest, a race car driver is a race car driver, and he's going to know how to drive what he's given. So, it's not too big of a difference. Of course, horsepower is different, and the longer the run goes on, it's just crazy the throttle control you have to have. But it's not that bad. It's just the fact of getting used to your seat time and to know what's going to happen with the car as the run will go on, Yeah,
I know what you mean. Aren't those cars rack and pinion steering?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, I've always thought that's about the biggest difference, you would actually feel would be the rack and pinion in the
giant.
Super compared to the old style that the trucks and they run in cup and everything.
Oh, yeah, and that's a big difference, too. I noticed when I went to Caraway, I was like, whoa, man. It's like I didn't have any power steering. I had to turn the steering wheel like twice as much.
Yeah, and Caraway's a tough track. For the listeners that don't know about it, it's pretty much like Martinsville. It's 2 long straightaways and 2 tight corners, and they put on a good show there, too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we've got a minute here. If y'all want to call in and ask Derek some questions or just talk to him a bit, let me give you the phone number. It's 718-664-9861. That's in my radio voice instead of my redneck voice, if you could tell the difference.
Oh, yeah.
So you've got the experience, you've got it knocked down, now, what goes on in the garage and everything, and knowing the people that you're racing against. What are your plans now? You want to get in a Xfinity or Cup car and see if that takes you somewhere?
Probably not yet. I want to get experience as much as I can because this is my first year of Supers. And to even think about going to the, NASCAR Camping World Series, that was a pretty big jump for me. I want to be successful in everything I do, so I just don't want to leave this race behind with Tyler Young Motorsports and all of them. I want to leave them a better impression on myself. So hopefully we'll do a couple more races and see what goes on there.
Well, that's a good way to look at it. There's no need. You got the talent, so there's no need to be in a hurry. To move up, like you said, being your first year in Supers, that's where your mindset is to learn that car.
For sure.
And so the fact that you're doing that and not worried about jumping up to the top of the tier, so to speak, is pretty cool. That's a good attitude to have. Are you confident in the Super Late model? Do you feel like if they got the handling taken out that you could turn some quick laps?
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it. I've done it all last year in a Pro, and there's not that big of a difference in the Super to a Pro except for horsepower. I think once we figure out what's going on with the car, we'll be fine. I really don't think it's all me. I just feel like I'm lacking the race experience of being with all the other cars and everyone else, but I feel like I can, go quick by myself in practice. Like, that's no problem for a race car driver.
I hear that. Who's your crew chief? And, tell us a little bit about him.
It's Freddie Query's son, Alex Query. We've been with him since last year, and that was my first year in pros. And we had Alex, and he helped us a lot. We won a couple races. We competed at every race. There wasn't one race we didn't compete at unless we wrecked out or something, which we think we did that like twice. But, yeah, he's really helped us out, So I'm pretty excited to have him along in the Supers, It's just kind of crazy that we're running into problems this year. But, we're hoping to push through it and come out strong,
There you go. His dad was something else in a race car. I got to watch him quite a bit as I lived in Concord, and he ran Concord Motor Speedway quite a bit. And he was a damn race driver, and I'm sure his son has learned a lot just being around him. So you got a good deal there. How long did you say y'all have been together?
We've been together for, I'm going to say, around about 1 year and 3/4, year and a half, somewhere around there. We started last year, beginning of the year at Speedfest in Cordell in the Pro.
Yep. How do you feel the chemistry is? Is it developing good between you and him?
For sure. Like I say, the year we started out, it was great. And then he grew up around the rough racing and, all the attitudes and all that good stuff. So he kind of brought that upon me a little bit, which is perfectly fine because I get a little like that sometimes. So every once in a while we'll just butt heads and we'll have a problem, but we get along real well. We'll apologize to each other. Next thing you know, we'll go out and win a race. So it's always good in the end.
You're 16, right?
Just turned 17. Just turned.
Attaboy. How's your schoolwork? Are you homeschooled or do you go to school? Have you got a deal worked out with that?
I do have a deal worked out with public school. My local community, it's amazing, honestly. We have a real small, I don't know if y'all rate y'all schools around there. It's a 3A. You probably don't know what that is, but it is a public school, and they work with me real well. They let me miss, I don't know, probably 35, 40 days a year at least. And as long as I, do my work, keep up, and, stay an A honor roll student, they really don't bother me at all. They actually support me real well.
Well, that's great. That's good. That's a good deal that they can work with you with that many absences to get you through. You got any plans after high school to further your education?
Of course, and it's going to be a little hard with racing. We're probably going to do what most people do, but, well, I guess most people are doing the online schooling, but I plan on going to Texas A&M. I'm going to go there for aerospace engineering. That's my plans.
Wow. Aerospace engineering, boy, you'll know the aero of your truck and car and everything then. That's
no
a pretty
doubt.
good deal.
For sure.
Is that why you decided to do it, to help you in your racing career later on down the road?
You know what? Not many drivers say this. Many drivers are like, man, if I can't race a car, I'm going to work on a car. Well, that's really not me, I love building and inventing things of my own, but I want to race a car. I want to be the guy. I want to be like the kid on TV where all the little kids are watching. Like, I want to be like him as a race car driver, the way people perceive other people. And I just want to be like that. I don't particularly want to go and work for any team or any race car, I'm always going to be a race car driver, and it's always going to be my hobby if I never make it to the big times. But, I just want to make my own career of it as a college student, I guess I should say, in the next couple of years.
I heard you. I heard what you were saying, and that's cool, It's a good way to look at things, and it reminded me we're a lot alike in a strange way. I was the same way you are, backwards. I loved working on the car, and I had no desire to drive.
Right.
I didn't want to be a driver. I wanted to be a mechanic. And it's like you said, you don't want to be a mechanic. You just want to be a driver. So I know the feeling you're talking about.
Exactly, yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying exactly. That's pretty much exactly how I feel, I'm just kind of one-track mind. I want to race cars. I want to make it to where my ultimate goals are. And if I don't make it, that's okay. I still have a second part of my life to live, or 3 or 4 different parts of my life to live.
Yeah. I was just sitting here thinking, you talking about, if it doesn't work out, it's no big deal, or if you don't win the race, it's no big deal. And
Right.
I'm thinking, well, yeah, it was to me. I was kind of committed
to
it insanely, and that's what pretty much drove me racing, too, is just wanting to race, wanting to win everyone. And it also...
Oh, yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from there.
How did you get started in racing? How old were you?
I was about 7 years old, 7 or 8, and I've always wanted to race. My parents have always watched NASCAR. I'm not any second or third generation in racing. I'm the only one. I'm the only one my family's ever thought about racing. And my mom told my dad, hey, we're going to look up online of where little Derek can start racing at. And we found this little go-kart place out in Katy, Texas. That's over there by Houston, if y'all know where that's at. And I went there and I was like, I want to do it. So we got me a little go-kart, and I went out and started, and, man, it was on from there.
I hear you. How did you do? Did you bring home some trophies?
Oh, man, it's crazy. If y'all look at my Facebook, y'all see a recent picture my mom posted, and it's of all my trophies and plaques and, shoot, everything, man. It was crazy. I don't know if y'all know Dalton Sargent, but that's who we went out and raced with, those guys.
Yeah, I know Dalton Sargent. I've seen him race before, too, but on, TV.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a driver, too. So y'all came up together?
Oh, yeah, it was me, Dalton Sargent, Austin Wayne Self.
Yeah.
And there's a guy that races IndyCar. His name's Connor Daly. We all raced together.
Heard of Connor Daly and Austin Wayne Self, the ARCA driver. So that's pretty
well,
good.
He races trucks now.
Is he? Well, that's even better. That's good that you've got guys that are real racers that you're racing with. Did you learn anything? Did y'all trade any secrets?
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's who I pretty much went to, me and Austin. We hung out the weekend before, and, I got a little insight of what I was going to be expecting when I went to Iowa. And, he did help me out a lot. It's just so hard to take in what someone's saying and then going out there and doing it on the racetrack. It's just so much different,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Do you race in Texas? I know there's only, I think, 2 asphalt tracks there. I don't remember what cities they're in, but they're kind of spread out. Of course, everything's spread out in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Do you run those tracks? It is.
No,
I mean, go ahead. I'll let you talk.
Okay. Yeah, there is one track out there, Central Texas Speedway, and Austin Self's dad actually owns it and runs it. And, I think I raced like 3 races out there. I might have raced, a little bit more just here, just testing, practicing and everything, because Casey Smith was my crew chief back then. And we ran a little deal out there for a little while until we went to Alex Query. But, yeah, I think there's like one track. The other track's San Antonio Speedway. And they used to run the Oktoberfest out there. I guess that's what it's called. I don't really know what it's called, but it's shut down, and there's nothing but Central Texas left.
Wow, that kind of sucks. But it's good. It's good to know. I'm coming to Abilene in 2 months. My son is coming back from Japan, and he's going to be stationed at Dice Air Force Base. And I haven't seen him in, 3 years. So I'm planning on flying out there and hanging out a while with him. Maybe I can figure out a way to synchronize our schedule, and I can actually come down and meet you and shake your hand and everything. Cause I've been watching you for a couple of years, and you're a really impressive driver. And just as much, you're real comfortable in front of a microphone.
Thank you for that.
Well, you spoke about sponsorship, too, and I just wanted to say, you would be like the sponsor's dream, clean-cut, good-looking young man that knows how to speak. So if there's, anybody listening that might want to get on board and sponsor a car or get involved in some way, if you're in the Texas area, check out Derek Scott Jr. He'd be a good one for you. If you can't find him, his dad owns a car dealership down there. So you can find his dad there, and they'll hook you up, too.
For sure.
Have you ever worked there for him?
Actually, I washed cars there for him last summer when I wasn't doing too much, but that's about it there.
I've had that job at the dealership before to go out and wash all the cars on the lot.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool that you got a taste of that. Did you hear about the stuff going on up at Bowman Gray Stadium?
Say what it is, because I'll probably be able to tell you if I know it if you say what happened.
The past weekend, they ended up, the fighting and wrecking got so bad this time.
Yep.
They locked up one of the drivers.
Yep, for running, he turned the car on and took off or something like that? Because they were trying to fight him, 4 guys or something like that?
Yeah, he's in the pit, got a donut.
Yep.
I tell you, they put on a show there, but it's a strange way to do it. I don't see the future in so much action, so to speak, on the track. What are your thoughts about it? Which way do you lean on that subject?
What's that? Say that again.
I said, as far as the racing goes, the good, hard, old-school type racing compared to the more bringing the car home in one piece type. And I just want to know which way you leaned on that.
It all just depends on where I'm at on the racetrack, to be honest with you. If I'm going for the win and I'm second and I'm side by side, I'm going to do as much as I can to make sure that guy doesn't pass me. You know what I mean? But I like having peace. You know, I don't like fighting at all. So if I ever get in a confrontation, kind of like I did over there in that truck race this past weekend, you know, I don't want to fight, don't want to argue, and I sure in the heck don't want my name being brought around, you know, as someone that wants to be like that or fight or wreck people. So, you know, I kind of like the way it used to be just because that's how it used to be. That's how NASCAR came about, you know. There's all that rough aggressiveness, but again, I'm not the fighter type, you know, and I want to be risen kind of like William Byron, you know. He's straight as a pole, you know.
Oh, yeah.
He was taught how to do stuff, you know. He looks great on the racetrack and everything, and I kind of like the modernized touch to it, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. And you look at William Byron, and I don't want to use this word, and I'm not being bad on William Byron or anything, but to me, he's been trained. And I hate that word, but they have worked with him in all areas to get him,
for sure,
you know, to be where he is today and to be that good a race car driver at that age. He's pretty impressive. Have you run with him any?
Oh, yeah. We ran supers forever. Shoot. We went to Nashville, I guess it was a month and a half, 2 months ago, and we were out there kicking their butts, you know. So it's kind of crazy to come in the trucks and watch them do what they do. But when you come to NASCAR, pretty much everything's political. But, you know, you do what you do as a driver, and sometimes it hurts to do it, but you just got to cringe your eyes and, you know, just drive forward and, you know, do the best that your team allows you to do.
Yeah, I know what you're saying there. During the truck race, you were involved in an incident with another driver. Tell us how that happened.
Well, I was driving my butt off because we finally got the truck to where it was, and the 22, Austin Self, and the 98 Rico Abreu, they were racing pretty hard side by side, and Tommy Joe Martin happened to be right behind him, and shoot, I was coming back half a straightaway, and I caught him, I ran him down, and Tommy Joe, I guess he was arcing it in real high and cutting across the bottom, cutting right across my front end, and there was a time previously in the race where I dove in and, shoot, he cut me all the way off. I slammed my brakes, about wrecked it. But, you know, I didn't go and wreck him on purpose. I don't even know if it was completely me that wrecked him. I feel like it was a mutual cause. You know, I feel like his spotter could have said, hey, coming hard inside. Because it wasn't like I just crept up there and just gave him a tap, you know. I was coming hard, you know. I was on the inside. I chose my line. I drove hard going in. And there's no doubt about that. I drove hard going in so I could get a run on him. And he came from top and just crossed me right in front, and I hit him. I didn't want to lock my fronts up and slam the wall either, but that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah, I watched him, and he, you know, nothing looked intentional on either side. He just, I don't know why, but he just came down the track and smacked you in the right rear and turned you, and that started everything. I assume there's no problems, personal or anything, between the two of y'all.
No, he was real upset first and was talking a lot of smack, I guess you could say, on Twitter. But I went over to his place, and he wasn't there. He already left. I told the crew that we came. It was me and Rick Crawford because he was there helping me this past weekend, and we went there and told the crew to let him know we came to talk to him. So it ended up being all well.
That's cool. You know, you didn't go the cell phone route where a lot of people, you know, a lot of drivers do, and they don't have to face somebody face to face. But you showed up. You took the time and energy to come to his shop. So I'm sure that made an impression on him. And when word gets around, it'll make an impression on the guys in the garage. You know, that a move like that does nothing but enhance your reputation, and reputation is the biggest thing you've got in racing right now.
No doubt. No doubt.
And speaking of which, trying to figure out how to word this. We'll go on to something else. I'll come back to it. Social media, how involved are you in that? And how much do you think that helps you being a racer and drawing fans?
That helps a ton, man. There are people constantly, hitting me up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff, trying to get involved in my racing, which is awesome. And I am pretty involved with it, but I'm gone so much. It's so hard to keep up with everybody. But my parents and my sister and most of my family, they usually take care of all the fans, if they're wanting shirts or hero cards or hats or whatever the cause may be. But it's awesome in helping someone's race career, not just mine, but everybody's.
You mentioned the shirts. It's customary when you come on the show to send the host a T-shirt, so keep that in mind. And I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to your dad. I've never met him, but I've worked, deals with him on Facebook, and he seems like a pretty cool guy. And he's helped me a bunch get in touch with you and everything and let me know what's going on. So, Derek Scott Sr., thank you very much, sir. I do appreciate it.
Shoot, not even you, but me, man. I got to give a shout-out to my own dad for giving me the opportunity to be in this position that I am in this life now.
Yeah, well, while we're talking about it, take a minute to give a shout-out to anybody you want to, sponsors or car owner, crew chief, anybody.
Yeah, especially for the guys that sponsored my truck this past weekend. And I'd like to thank Crossroads Concrete and Rick Siegert and Tanya McAllister with NPM Marketing. She helped this whole deal come together. And West Strong, which is my parents' hometown, which is, of course, my hometown as well, they brought in, a lot of money and a lot of support, And I also got to give a shout-out to Rick Crawford for being my mentor / driving coach / everything this past weekend. He really helped me and my nerves, honestly. He helped just prepare me for the worst and the best, of course.
Yeah, that's a good mentor to have because of his experience in the trucks and everything. That worked out really cool.
For
we'll
sure.
Backpedal a little bit. Tell everybody how they can follow you on social media, how they can keep up with what you're doing.
Well, of course, I'm on Facebook, and, I have a personal account, and I have a fan page, and I have a personal account on Instagram, which I'm really not on too much. On Twitter, I'm just now starting to get onto there and start doing some stuff because I'm real new to Twitter. I'm not really on a Twitter guy, but most of the NASCAR guys are all on Twitter, so I'm starting to switch over to Twitter. But basically right now, most people are on my Facebook, so of course get me on there. You can get my personal account or my fan page. So, just hit me up on there, and, we'll keep you posted with my racing.
Definitely so. That's Facebook's a lot of how I follow you and everything, so that's cool too. Well, I had a brain fart and my mind is totally blank right now. Let's go back to your early years of racing. You said you were the only one in your family and the first in your family that started racing. I was trying to remember your age back then, but
7.
How has that come along at 8? So it's been 8 years that your family's been involved with your racing. Does that work good for you? How do you like having them around?
It's awesome because, they don't really know too much about it, so they can't sit there and critique me and tell me pretty much what to do on the racetrack or anything. So it's good. They're just there for support only. And I think it's a good family experience, too. I get a bigger connection with my dad and my mother than most any kid can ever get. They constantly follow me around, and, they're my own little life mentor. And this is all just a big life lesson for my family. So I can't thank them enough for what they do for me.
I heard that. I was that way with my dad. My dad and I had a partnership where we owned late models, and it was a very simple partnership. He paid the bills, I did the work. But I had been the black sheep of the family, and my dad and I weren't that close. But then I got to work 13 years with him, and we got real close. Just like you said, it's a good family experience, and it is something to bring family together, which is the great thing about racing. I mean,
no doubt.
The fans are what makes it go.
For sure.
I think my phone's cutting out.
Or mine, I don't know. I'm over here on the beach right now.
Here we go. I heard that pretty clear. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
Since I'm not familiar with Texas, how much of a drive do you reckon it'd be from Houston to Abilene?
That's going to be big because, shoot, from my house, and I'm in between, it's going to be a 3-hour drive to Abilene. Abilene's over by Dallas, correct?
Yeah, down from west of Dallas-Fort Worth.
Yeah. It's going to be, shoot, man. I guess it could be shorter depending on the route, but if it's from my house to Abilene, it's like 3 hours, but from my house to Houston, it's 2.5, so shoot, 3, 4, 5.5 hours, 5 hours.
Yeah, 5 or 6 hours. That's a big travel. How much do you travel with the Super now? Where do you run at with it?
I travel everywhere. Mostly we've been in Florida, Mobile, Alabama, North Carolina, those areas right now on the East Coast. Southeast, I guess I should say.
Yeah, you're hammering the Southeast, I tell you.
For sure.
How do you like it? Do you like living out of a suitcase? Is that something you're going to be able to deal with?
It's okay. It's different because we're constantly driving. You know, most of the guys are flying here to there, so they're always home a little more than me. I would probably say I've been home 3 days in the past 4 weeks, about a month. I've been home 3 days in the past month. So it's a pretty big deal, but I'm willing to take the risk to help my race career out.
Yeah, that's something you have to deal with, but some people don't like to be gone that long. Others do. I liked it. I was a tire man at Hendrick Motorsports, so I went anywhere the car went, so I stayed on the road a lot, and I didn't mind it. It was a good deal. Good memories from there too. Well, Derek, I appreciate you coming in. I'm gonna keep up with you, see how things are going, and we'll try to get you back in here later on in the season just to see how you're doing. Thanks, bud. I really appreciate you coming in.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all for letting me be on the show tonight. Thank y'all.
Glad to have you. Thanks again, and good night. Derek Scott, Jr. Well, Mr. CJ, what did you think of our young driver? Got the mute button on?
I'm here.
I didn't know. What did you think of Derek Scott Jr.? He's an impressive young man, isn't he?
Very, very much so. It's always interesting to hear these drivers start off at such a young age, 7 years old, and not only that, to know that he's gone from where he started at 7 years old and is running in the Truck Series at 17.
Yeah.
Just know how he's accomplished, and really, even though it's 10 years, such a short time, it really amazes me.
Mm-hmm. The biggest thing that impressed me is, if I didn't already know from reading it, I would have never guessed he was 16 years old. He's very articulate for that age, and that's the way it is now in racing. Everybody you talk to is, I don't want to say polished, but, they're dressed nice, they look good, hair's cut, everything like that, compared to back in the day when even the driver worked on the car, so everybody was pretty much dirty and greasy over the years in their uniforms and driving suits. But that's the price you pay to do the racing that you do. While I'm in Abilene, which after the show I'm going to Google it and see where it is in Texas and see how far from Houston it is, because I'd like to go down there if I can get it in sync and see him race and get to shake his hand and meet him. I think that'd be pretty cool.
I most definitely, I bet it would. I mean, we've had the fortunate opportunity to meet so many different talent drivers from so many different parts of the United States, or even the world at this point, Canada. And, I know we're still working on getting over from Australia, and we've had, other guests from other parts of the world, and it just would be cool to be able to meet so many of these different talented athletes and drivers that we get the opportunity to meet, have on the show.
Yeah, they are definitely, at the young age they are, they really are interesting to talk to, and that's the thing, you never know just by listening to them through non-visual media like we are now. Like I said, you never know. He was only 16 years old, as polished as he was, and the way he had good answers and good explanations makes my job easier. I definitely get him on again.
Oh yeah, I mean it was like last night. We had Dylan Lumpkin join us last night. He's going to be making his Sprint Cup debut at Sonoma this weekend for BK Racing, and just to listen to him talk and listen to getting prepared for this weekend. Obviously, this is a weekend that really could kind of leap his career, and move it forward, and just to listen to him talk about it was really cool.
Yeah, definitely, and another good driver. Maybe we'll get him on the show one day soon, see what's happening in his world. And that's what we do here. If you're not familiar with the show, we concentrate on local short track racing and local short track drivers. We're talking NASCAR now, basically because me and CJ are trying to keep from having dead air while we're waiting on the second guest to call in. But, I can't remember what the hell I was talking about. But yeah, what this show is all about is local short track racing, drivers, promoters. I'm trying to put a show together with a promoter and a gentleman that preps the dirt track. Because I have no idea how that goes or anything. So, and get him in there to talk about it, and get a manager, somebody that handles the day-to-day stuff. So I think that would make a good show. You think it would, CJ?
Well, most definitely. And speaking of dirt track, we had Tom Hessert on Tuesday night. ARCA Series driver. He finished fifth last weekend, fourth in the points in the ARCA Series. And we got to talking about dirt track. The ARCA Series does the two races, both of them in Indiana, or I think one Illinois, one Indiana. I forget. I know it's one where they do the dirt track race. And, listen to him talk about putting the rubber down. And, I was really just drawn in to listen to him talk about, how on a dirt track you still have rubber laid down. And, the whole dirt track scene just kind of fascinates me because as much as it's different, yet it's still the same. And just to hear the same terminology but different is really just fascinating to me.
It does me too, and that's one reason I do these shows, to get to talk to dirt track drivers. I've never worked on a dirt track car. I've always been on asphalt. And I started this show a few years back, and I didn't know very little about dirt track racing, but I've been fortunate to have guests on that, I can listen to and pick something up from what they're saying and everything. So my knowledge has grown on dirt track racing, and now I want to get in and go to some of these tracks or some of these races if I can, to see guys that have been guests on the show, shake their hand and get to talk to them a little bit. Like we did last year with the World Outlaws race there at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That was a pretty interesting show, don't you think?
Yep. Most definitely. I don't know, when it comes to any sport, but more specifically racing, because there's so many types of racing and so many different types of tracks, and then you got the asphalt and dirt on top of that. You can really get sucked into just, especially if you're that type that enjoys racing. It don't matter if it's a straight line with a drag race. It don't matter if it's a IRL, if it's NASCAR, your local track, your local asphalt track, your local dirt track, the sprint cars. There are just so many types, and it amazes me. A lot of times you'll see these people on Facebook talking about NASCAR and being bored with this and being bored with that. I might not choose to watch every particular type of racing, but it's not that I put down any other type of racing or won't if I have the opportunity. If you got this or this type of racing on, I might pick type B versus over an A and C. That's just my preference. But if B is not on and A and C is on, then I'm going to watch either A and C versus B. And I'm that type that it don't really matter what type of racing it is on. If it's racing and it's competitive, I'm going to watch it. And you listen to these different drivers that come on, and just the different experiences and the opportunities and just the different types of cars, and it just fascinates me. I think that's one of the questions I ask very commonly is, when we listen to these drivers talk about the different type of cars, most of them, they go through the go-karts and then the midgets and quarter midgets and Balderos or Banderos, whatever they're called. Then the late models and super late models. You get kind of, wow, this driver drove so many cars. And my first question always ends up being is, what do you feel most comfortable in? What is your favorite car to drive?
Yeah.
Like, to know that you've gone through all these different cars. I mean, one of them's got to stick out, and which one was most difficult? Like those, because it just fascinates me. Usually, a lot of them are the same, but there's a few that, they feel more comfortable in some of the cars that others don't, and it just really fascinating. It's not like football where only thing really different is the field you play on, and that's really it, and just different level of competition. Yeah. In racing, you get different types, different levels of racing. Different level of racing. You get different types of tracks. You get different kind of cars. Like there's just a gazillion things, and I think that's what's so fascinating about this sport and be able to do these shows.
Yeah, definitely. I'm like you. I spend a lot of time watching racing, and I can watch pretty much any kind of racing as long as it's two guys trying to outrun each other. I'm into it. I'm really starting to watch NHRA drag racing now. One of the administrators in my group, NASCAR and Other Racing, gentleman named Paul Miller, is a big NHRA fan, and Paul knows a lot about drag racing and everything. So he's a key source of information of who's doing what and who's hot and who's somebody to beat. So about the only type of racing I don't watch and I don't enjoy for some reason is Formula One. I don't know, can't get into it. But that's the only one. What do you think of Formula One racing? Do you watch it?
If you asked me a question, I apologize. I missed it. I was talking to our caller in the studio. We got Kenny Martin in the studio.
That's a cool deal. I'm glad he called in. I have no idea how to introduce him. I don't know anything about the class of cars he runs. So, Kenny Martin, glad to have you on. How you doing tonight?
There we go.
Hey, how's it going?
On there now?
Yeah, he's in there.
How you doing tonight, Kenny?
Doing great, Steve. How are you?
Oh, we're doing great here, sitting through a thunderstorm, but that's just the way it is, the summer in the South. I got to tell you, I'm lost on the type of racing you do, other than I know it's enduro style. Tell me something about it so I can learn here.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. Well, as you said, it is endurance style. It's closed circuit, endurance sports car racing. So think 24 Hours of Le Mans like we just saw this past weekend, but on a tiny fraction of the scale budget.
Yeah, I know what you mean there. What is the name of that class?
So I'm running in two different series. They're very similar. A lot of the same teams run in both series. The rules are pretty similar between the two. One series is a little more strict. They have a larger rule book. The other one's a little more wide open. But for the most part, they're wide. They're very, very similar. But the one series is called the Optima Batteries World Chump Car Series. And the other series is called the Lucky Dog Racing League.
Cool. When I got the message about it, it had Chump Racing on there, and I'm thinking, is that a misprint? Is that supposed to be Champ Racing? I said, I've never heard of Chump Racing. So
yeah, it's a little bit of a play on words.
Out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I watched your video that you've got posted. And one thing I noticed is the dash is gone. Most of the interior is gone. I wasn't aware that in enduro racing you could lighten the car up like that. I thought you pretty much had to run the stock car. What kind of car do you run? I couldn't recognize the model.
Sure, yeah. With everything stripped out, it'd be a little bit hard to identify from that angle. It's an '88 Honda Prelude.
Ooh.
And it's the 2.0 SI with the four-wheel steering.
Cool deal. I remember the four-wheel steering, and I always thought that was pretty cool.
Yes, sir.
I had an '85 Prelude, so I'm right there with you.
Right.
First question that popped in my mind was the sunroof. Did you have to eliminate that?
Yes, sir. So the rules say that you must get rid of all glass in the car except for the windshield. Windshield's the only glass you can keep. The rules also say that for the driver's window and for the sunroof, or if you have a convertible, that you have to have some way of restricting the driver's hands to where the hands cannot exit the vehicle. So instead of, for the driver's side window, you have to have a window net. So we've got an SFI rated window net. But for the roof, we got a little bit creative. Instead of purchasing another, $60 window net, my buddy had some expanded metal sitting around. So took a big piece of it, laid it on top of the car. With a Sharpie, I measured out the perimeter. Took some wire cutters, cut out the shape. And then my buddy welded it on for me, so it's a perfect fit.
I hear you. CJ,
so
you got a question?
Made us rules eligible. What'd you say?
I was trying to see if CJ wanted to get in this conversation.
Oh, I'm here. I had some other to interfere with what I'm talking about right now. I was trying to jump in earlier. There's a couple of things. When you first got on, you were talking about you didn't know where to go, and I was going to throw a couple of things out there. A couple of great things to know about Kenny Martin. One, he's a teacher and does great things with the young youth and helping develop young minds. Also was part of the Peak Performance Challenge and My question was really non-Kenny Martin related at this moment. I know that his wife has gone through many different surgeries from an injury, but she's an athlete as well, and I just wanted to make sure that she was finally done with all those surgeries. I think she had one more after the last time we talked.
Yes, sir. Thanks for asking. She actually just had that surgery 2 weeks ago. We just had a follow-up with her surgeon today, a couple hours ago. She's doing great. She's already, for only being 2 weeks out from surgery, she's already ahead of schedule in terms of where the knee should be. The experience with this surgery has been night and day compared to the one that happened 2 years ago. It was a more complicated surgery the first time around. They were trying to repair 2 ligaments at once. And this time it was just the ACL, because the other one was actually fine from the first surgery. They were able to repair that one just fine, but the ACL did not take. They had tried to use a cadaver graft the first time, and it just didn't take. So this time they took out a piece of her patellar tendon, and created a new ACL out of that, and it's going great. So I really appreciate you asking about it, Mr. CJ Sports, and she's doing very, very well.
I'm definitely glad to hear that. I believe I saw the picture. Didn't you post pictures on Facebook? Was it a couple weeks ago when that did happen?
I posted some pictures of her, and then she followed up with some pictures of the knee itself, and she'll probably be posting some more here pretty soon, because at the doctor's appointment today, the surgeon removed some of the tape and some of the coverings and stuff. So, if you keep an eye on it, she'll probably post up some more pictures of the knee itself.
I'm not.
Go ahead, Steve.
I was just thinking, I'm curious, and I don't know, how did she injure her knee?
Yeah, she was playing women's professional football.
Wow.
She was a running back, and it was an out. And the interesting thing is the injury occurred while I was in Charlotte doing the Peak Stock Car Dream Challenge. And so she kept it from me. She didn't tell me about it because she wanted me to be able to focus on what I was doing out there. And so I didn't even know about it till I flew back out here to San Diego. And I remember my brother-in-law picked me up at the airport, and I was like, "Where's Jess?" And he said she's in the car. And I said, "Is she okay?" And the look on his face told me that there was more to the story. And he said, "Yeah, she's okay." But
I know that voice. I heard it.
I forgot to mention also Kenny was one of the coaches of that team as well.
That's right. Yeah, I was the wide receivers coach, and I had, obviously they knew about the Peak thing, and they were very supportive. In fact, the team, the San Diego Surge women's football team, they were, they did a lot of work, in terms of voting to help me get that spot out there, and so they knew I was going to be gone for that one game, and of course that was the game where she got injured. And it was an outside running play to the left. I know all about the play, and one of the defenders had beaten the blocking on the outside, and so she had to cut it back inside. And when she did, she got hit by a defensive lineman from the inside, and then a linebacker had closed from the outside, and that's what collapsed the knee. So, yeah, but she's good now.
I've watched some of the women's football, and it's not really ladies, but they'll lay the smack down on you in a second.
Oh man, they play real football. They play real football. It's fast and it's brutal, and they hit hard. They bring it.
Do you race like that? Is that something you transfer over to your racing? That attitude?
I try to race clean. I really, really do. I try to avoid contact in racing. I know that the term is rubbins racing, but especially as the car owner now, I want to keep that car clean.
That makes a world of difference in your attitude when all of a sudden you got to pay the bills.
Absolutely. But I mean, honestly, even whenever I was driving, someone else's car, I always really tried to look out for the equipment. Because a lot of people, especially people who don't actually race, a lot of people like to say that everyone's racing, but the reality of it is, to finish first you must finish. That's all about, keeping the car out of trouble and, taking care of your equipment, making everything last. And, the more you take care of equipment, the more people are likely to ask you to drive. And, so that's, I've always taken great pride in the fact that, I believe that I have the skill to get around you. I don't have to try to go through you. I don't have to try to move you out of the way. I'll find a way around you on my own.
I heard that. I'm having trouble keeping my brain focused. I was going to ask you something again and forgot what it was. CJ, you got anything?
I was coming outside when you guys started and saw us transferring from the speaker, which was on a time delay, which is my headset, so I might have missed this part. But I know, Kenny, you guys 5-6 hour race, or maybe 8 hour race. I can't remember at this point. How did that go? I believe y'all finished in the. I remember first. I can't remember off the top of my head. But how did that go, and what did you guys learn from that?
Well, we learned a lot. That was my, I have experience as a driver, of course, but that was my first weekend as a car owner. In terms of where other people are driving for me, in terms of, being a team manager as well. I was wearing a lot of hats that weekend for the first time. So the race weekend was, it was a 7-hour endurance race on Saturday, and then a separate 6-hour race on Sunday, which was a good thing. It was a good thing because we ended up having some trouble on the first day. We started, it was the very first race for the car, so I intentionally chose to start at the back of the pack. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to be getting in anybody's way, in case anything went crazy with the car. So I started at the back of the pack, and in my 1.5 hour stint, in my 90-minute stint, I worked my way up from 24th up to 8th place overall.
Wow.
Pretty sure that I was leading our class at that point in time. Came in for a pit stop, second driver in. About 20 minutes into his stint, the alternator went out.
Damn.
So we were done for the day. 2 hours into the 7-hour race, we were done. We're out in the middle of the desert in California. If anybody knows where Willow Springs International Raceway is, it's in Rosamond, California, which is kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So we had to really go looking to try to find an alternator for an 88 Prelude. A few hours later, we found one.
There you go.
In Palmdale, which was just a couple towns over. We found it, brought it back to the track, got it installed, and then we pretty much buttoned it up about the same time the checkered flag flew for Saturday's race. So the good news was we had the car ready to go for Sunday. And then on Sunday, we made it the full 6 hours. All three drivers got a chance to drive, and we finished 4th in our class and 15th overall.
Good deal. My parents had a house in Palm Springs, so I know some of that area. I know where Willow Springs and Palmdale is.
Yes, sir.
As my dad would say, Willow Springs is so far out in the desert, Jesus lost his sandals out there. So,
yes, sir.
I know what you're talking about. You got a unique deal that I've never seen before. You can pick up a driver to drive a section of this race, and pretty much anybody that wants to race, if they pay for the stint they're in. Tell me how that's been working.
Well, again, this was the very first weekend. My other two drivers for this race I chose because they are guys that I know really well, and they're guys that I knew that I would be able to trust with the equipment. One of the drivers, Chris Stanley, I've known him for pretty much my whole life. He and I grew up together in East Tennessee. I'd seen him drive on the back roads of East Tennessee, which to this day, I've never found a racetrack that's as challenging as East Tennessee back road. So I knew East Tennessee and Western North Carolina are pretty much the same. So if you've driven mountain roads in North Carolina, you know what I'm talking about. But I knew that Chris could drive really well. He just had never raced before. And again, this was somebody that I know very, very well, and I knew that I could trust him to take care of the equipment. And the same with my other driver, Jonathan Hernandez. Haven't known him as long, but I've known him for probably 10 years. Knew that he was into cars. I'd seen him drive in other circumstances, and again, a smart guy, just like Chris, another guy that I knew I could trust. So, I wasn't very concerned with the fact that they hadn't driven in an actual race before. I knew that they had driving skill, and I knew that they were trustworthy, and that was the biggest thing for me. And both of them did remarkably well. I mean, I trained them the best I could. Yeah. We watched videos together. We ran some simulations on, of all things, Gran Turismo video game, but it worked. And they both performed great, and it was really fun to watch their lap times continually improve kind of throughout the weekend.
There you go.
They kept the car out of trouble. We had some communication problems because we didn't have a functioning radio system, and if not for that, if we had just had a functioning radio, we would have been on the podium in our first ever race, which is, I think, extraordinary. So we learned a lot. Like I said, I learned a lot as a team owner and as a team manager. They learned a lot as drivers. I will happily have them both back anytime that they get a chance. So yeah, it was a very good weekend, a successful weekend, and definitely a learning experience for sure.
How much do you charge somebody to run one stint?
There's an hourly rate, which basically is the cost of what it, of the operating cost of running the car, there's obviously fuel, and then there's, oil usage and other fluids. There's, the tires and everything else. So there are actual costs associated with the car being on track and running at speed. And so, for friends and family, I basically just charge them what the actual cost is. I'm not looking to make any money off my friends and family. At some point in time, once the car has finished a few races and people start to recognize it, and other people are wanting to come drive it, maybe I'll make a little bit of money off of them, charge them a little bit more than operating cost. But for friends and family, I'm pretty much charging them what it costs to operate, which is, it factors out to about a little over $100 per hour. It's about $125 per hour. To run the car. And again, that includes fuel, that includes, oil and fluids, that includes tires and everything else. So a little over 100, about $125 per hour to run it. And then they pay a share of whatever the registration fees are. So, each series charges it a little bit differently, and but there are registration fees. The Lucky Dog Racing League charges a set amount per driver. There's no particular team fee. They charge per driver. Whereas the Chump Car series, they charge a set amount for the car, and then they charge a very small amount per driver that's extra beyond a certain point. So, as a team owner, I figure out the total cost and then kind of divvy that up. So yeah, that's pretty much how it works out.
I hear you. Mr. CJ Sports, that road trip we've been planning just got coast to coast because we're going to have to go to California and check this out. This is wild. I've never heard of any kind of racing like this before, and I appreciate you coming on and educating me about it, Kenny. That's really cool stuff. You talking about the price of somebody renting a stint and everything, that's way less than I thought it would be. So, that wouldn't hurt my pocketbook too much. I'm going to try to get out there and see what I could do.
Hey, you'd be welcome anytime, man.
Good deal. I appreciate that. Take a moment to give a shout-out to anybody you want to recognize that's been helping you.
Absolutely. First, I definitely want to mention my wife, Jess, she's been so supportive throughout this whole process. allowing me to focus, time, effort, and energy towards this thing, and just really being very supportive. Definitely want to mention my friend Victor Reyes, who he's been the mechanical mastermind behind the build of this car. He's,
There you go.
This project would never have even gotten off the ground if not for him. And the shop that he runs, which is Auto Repair Specialists in La Mesa, California, that's the primary sponsor for the car, because that's where we do all the work, and in fact, that's where the car is right now. I'd also like to mention a couple of my other sponsors that have helped me out with particular parts of the build. Affordable Paint and Body, who did the paint job on the car. Mr. Neon, who did all the decals on the car, which look great. And then actually Mazda Subaru of El Cajon, which provided me with a little bit of funds to try to help take care of some tires and stuff, kind of compensate, help compensate some of those expenses.
That's cool to have. That's a good deal. Social media, how active are you there? And tell us how we can follow you, what sites you're on.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty active on Facebook. Really active, actually, on Facebook. And the easiest way to find me is just do a search for Kenny Martin. The picture that you'll find is me in my Peak fire suit from the Peak Stock Car Dream Challenge a few years ago. A good friend of mine, Antoine Clayton, did a really awesome photo shoot with me, which I'm very appreciative of. And so one of his photos of me in the Peak fire suit is how you'll find me on Facebook. You can also find me on Facebook. My handle is Kenny Loves Jess. So me and my wife there, Kenny Loves Jess. That's me. Also, somewhat active on Twitter. Not as active. I need to kind of pick that up again. But on Twitter, it's Tennessee Homeboy. In Tennessee, it's the abbreviation TN. So TN Homeboy. You'll find the same picture of me in the Peak fire suit. That's how you find me on Twitter as well.
Yep. Well, like I said, Kenny, I really appreciate you coming on and talk about the Chump Car racing. Like I said, I had no idea about it and everything. Now I got an idea of it, and I want to watch it. So
you'd be welcome anytime.
Keep the slot open for me, so if I can get out there, I'll definitely look you up.
Please do.
And thanks again for coming on, and good luck to you the rest of the season, Kenny.
Thanks, Steve. Really appreciate it. And anytime you want to come join us, even if it's not as a driver, you'd be welcome to hang out in the pits the entire time that you want to. So, please feel free to come be our guest anytime.
That's cool. I'd like to hang out with you and watch what's going on, because then I can talk to people and learn some more.
Absolutely.
One more time,
Mr. CJ Sports, that extends to you as well.
All right, thanks again, Kenny. And we'll talk to you later on in the season and find out what's going on.
Sounds great. Thanks again for having me on. I appreciate it.
Good deal, and good night to you, bud. Thank you again.
All right,
Mr. Jay, you want to let everybody know what you got happening with the 110 Sports Nation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You guys can check us out on Twitter at 110 Nation. You can check us out on Facebook at 110 Nation Sports. You can also check out the 110 Nation Sports Show Monday through Wednesday. Starting next week, we're going to be live from 8 to 10. We used to be on from 9 to 11, but my job situation changed where I got to be up at 4:30 every morning. So we are going to move the 110 Nation Sports Show up to 8 to 10 so I can get to bed a little bit better, at a little bit of better time anyway. So big change for us next week. And you also can check out our blog site, www.the110nationsports.com. We've had a lot of things get released over there in the last 24 hours, so you guys go over there and check that out.
I missed it. I apologize. I didn't think about it when I wrote my blog Tuesday, but I'll get it on your site next week. And congratulations on your job promotion. That's cool to hear. I'm glad for you on that, too. Social media-wise, if you want to find Stevie Boy here, go to Twitter at Big Sweat, where I'm the NASCAR Heartbreaker and Homewrecker. I'm not on much, but I am on there, so check that out. On Facebook, I have 2 groups that I run. NASCAR and Other Racing is the main one,
And we very much emphasize the other racing. If you listen to the show tonight, you've noticed that the varied individuals that we've had on. So we run group race threads where we sit and chat and talk about the race as it's going on, and we do it for Cup, Trucks, Xfinity, IHRA, Formula One, any World Outlaw show that's on TV, we're there. ARCA, we get on all of them, and we have a real good time. So if you're not a member, come join up, and I promise you, you'll have a good time, and you'll learn some stuff. On Monday nights, Mr. CJ Sports and myself co-host the show. Rubbin is Racing at 7 o'clock, and it's where we talk about what's happened the previous race weekend and give our opinions and talk about what's coming up. So come check us out at Blog Talk Radio. We're there. And I'll close this off with my blog that I write, that I put up every Tuesday. And the name of the blog is NASCAR Shit, Racing with Big Sweat. And it's more of an unadulterated view of what happened the past weekend. So check that out. Give it a read. Let me know what you think, and thank you if you do. Well, Mr. CJ, I'm about ready to get out of here. How about you?
Yeah, get ready to eat and get ready to go to bed. 4:30 comes mighty quick these days.
That's what I've heard. But I appreciate you putting me on. Glad to be here with you. And
yes, sir, me too.
We'll end that cattle drive with a good night, people. Thank you again for listening.
Tired at work today? You need a 5-hour energy shot. Didn't sleep too well last night? You need a 5-hour energy shot. Energy for work, energy for fun, even some energy for the gym. If you're tired from too much lunch, try something that packs a punch. A great tasting 5-hour energy shot. You'll feel alert, energized, and ready to go. Now's the time for 5-hour energy. For more information, go to 5hourenergy.com.
Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Yesterday, Cliff Sora shared a top 10 list of hot fusion restaurants, a vegan gluten-free mashup recipe, and a podcast featuring organic food trends. Oh, TMI, too much internet information. That's oversharing. Cliff, Geico has something worth sharing with your friends. Like how on Geico.com you could save hundreds on your car insurance, update your policy, and report a claim. Gluten-free info that's easy to swallow. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.